Welcome to the Communication Diva Podcast, episode 146. On this episode of the podcast, Jen discusses how to gracefully resign from a job. No, it's not you. It's me. I just need some time and space to figure out who I am and what I want.
Hey, this is Jen, and welcome to the Communication Diva Podcast, where I help you to get the job, to love your work, and to advance your career. It's October, and yesterday was quite nice and sunny and warmish, and this morning we woke up to thunder that was so loud at about 6 o'clock in the morning, lightning that lit up the room, and a blanket of hail on the ground that looked like a February snowstorm had hit. It was so bizarre. The weather is so weird right now, rather extreme all over, it seems. Anyhow, nothing as bad as the hurricane devastation going on or the wildfires in California. So many people are experiencing trauma all over the world right now. And it's challenging sometimes to keep a positive outlook and to have hope. But here's something quite cute for you. I wanted to share a happy story before we get to today's topic. There's a farm sanctuary near where we live, and we have not yet had a chance to visit it. It's quite popular, quite busy, and people have to make appointments. We haven't had a chance to, but we've been enjoying the videos that this farm sanctuary has been putting out. They rescue farm animals and give them a home, and let them live in the sunshine and play and live out their lives without fear of being turned into food. So they have videos on Instagram and on Facebook. And if you want to see the cutest thing ever, there is a video of a baby pig. His name is Garth Vader. Yes, Garth Vader. And he's a little pink pot-bellied baby pig. And in this particular video I'm thinking of, he is in the front entryway of a home, and the front doors have glass in the windows, and the sun is streaming in onto the hardwood floor. And Garth, this little pig, is standing right below the sun streaming in on the floor, and he has noticed his shadow. And he is trying valiantly to jump on his shadow and to catch it. And he's spinning around and he's stopping in case he can surprise it and catch it. And he spins and he jumps and he leaps on it. And it's just the best thing ever. It's sheer innocence and delight. And I've watched this thing a whole bunch of times because I think what it reminds me of is joy. It reminds me of delight in the little things like your shadow. And you know, with the shootings in Vegas and with what's happening in Puerto Rico and with the fires and the countless refugees around the world who are living in fear and in many cases with severe hunger and the fighting and people who are fighting for their very existence. You know, with all of that, it's really hard to remember that there's still good in the world, that there are blessings. And we just had our Canadian Thanksgiving dinner this past weekend, Thanksgiving holiday, and I was thinking about gratitude a lot. And so seeing this little creature leap and spin and completely enjoy the moment really brought home to me how important it is to find those moments of joy and delight and to enjoy them, because so many other moments are hard to bear with everything, the chaos that seems to be going on in our world. So if you want to see Garth, this little Garth Vader, the piglet, search on Instagram or Facebook, search the Happy Herd Farm Sanctuary, the Happy Herd Farm Sanctuary. Find it on Instagram, find it on Facebook, and you will see all sorts of videos there that will lighten your heart even just a little bit. Okay, so before I jump into our topic for today, let me also mention something else that lightens my heart. This is that our online course, How to Ace a Job Interview When You Haven't Interviewed in a Long Time, is open for registration right now. It is only open until October 15th, 2017. And you can take the course anytime, but you must register into it, purchase it and register into it by the end of the day, October 15th, which is, I believe, Monday. And you will be listening to this beginning on Thursday. So the course is open. You head over to courses.communicationdiva.com and find the interview skills course. Check it out. You can watch a couple of the preview videos. You can see the curriculum there. It has some great testimonials. People who have taken it have been successful in getting the jobs they've interviewed in many cases. And so if you or someone you know needs to get ready to ace a job interview in the next, in the coming months, you can purchase this now and you can give it as a gift. And I can help you do that if you need help doing that. So take a look at that, courses.communicationdiva.com. Again, only until October 15th. After that, it won't be available until 2018. All right. Our topic today is how to gracefully resign from a job. Now, of course, you can quit in anger. It's kind of fun. If I did that, I remember doing that once when I was I only worked for 3 days for a chiropractor. I was very young. It was one of my very first job opportunities. And it was a really unfortunate setup, the way I had been set up to work. I had half a day of training, and I'd been hired into a job where I had been quite honest about not knowing anything about office billing and didn't type very fast. I think I might have still been a teenager. And the person hired me and then for the next 2 days left me completely on my own while the chiropractor was in the back room dealing with patients. I had no idea what I was doing. And then he would come out and criticize my posture. And it was just such a horrible, stressful, awful experience that after about 3 days, I resigned, which left him quite in a lurch. But I hadn't, learned how to do all these things gracefully, and I was polite about it. But it was not as graceful as it could have been. So you can quit out of anger, you can quit out of frustration, you can decide that this job is just not for you, and that's your choice. But there are many, many good reasons why resigning with professionalism and doing it gracefully is a way better idea. So first of all, when you maintain your cool and when you're professional about it, what you also maintain is your reputation, and you maintain or preserve your relationship. And that could actually serve you really well later on. You don't want to burn bridges unless you absolutely, utterly have to. So if you can maintain your professionalism, maintain your reputation as a professional person, maintain your relationship with the manager, the boss, the organization, you never know what might happen down the road. And you never know who you might be able to help or who might be able to help you in the future. So it's a really good idea to try and do this as gracefully as you can. So before you decide to resign at all, here are some things to think about. Are you sure? Are you really, really, really sure that you want to resign from this job? First of all, do you have another job in the bag, as it were? Do you have that letter of acceptance and the start date and some kind of written contract or agreement that you have a new job before you resign from the current one? Some people try and jump too fast, and then the job offer falls through, and then the person is stuck with 0 jobs. So you want to make sure you don't put yourself in that horrible situation where you have no job because you haven't absolutely secured that new job. So be careful with that one. Make sure your timing is good, and that you absolutely know you're starting a new job in a few weeks or whatever before you resign from the first one. If you want to resign and you don't have anything lined up, are you able to sustain that? Are you able to live that way? Have you got some money saved up? Have you got a second plan? Do you have resources? Does your partner, spouse, family, if you have anyone who's relying on you, do they know? There are a number of things that need to be discussed and put in place before you resign without having something else to fall back onto. Now, maybe you don't need that. Maybe your partner makes enough that you can just take a break for a bit, which is great. But make sure, whatever the case, you've got your ducks in a row. I'm using a lot of cliches and metaphors tonight, sorry. And that you are calm and that you're not emotional when you make that decision to actually resign. Doing it out of anger or any other negative emotion may actually be a bad idea, and doing it too soon could have negative ramifications. So just make sure your timing is good and that you're doing it in a calm, cool manner. If you're still searching for a job, you can do that. You can search for a job while you're still working without having resigned. You just want to wait and quietly get things ready for when you do have a job and you're absolutely sure you have a job and you're ready to resign. You can very quietly start to clean up. You can old files that you've got could be shredded and sorted and tidied out. Things that you've got that you've, on your desk or in your desk or in your work area or whatever it is could be sorted out. Things that you haven't dealt with for quite some time that need dealing with. You can tie up loose ends. You can finish projects or figure out who could finish them once you're done. You could take your personal information off the company computer if you have any on there, or a cell phone, etc., anything that you've got that you have to hand back. Take your personal information off that. I would not suggest, if you're still in the job search mode and you haven't told anyone you're leaving, and I wouldn't suggest taking your family photos and your little desk ornamentations or your workspace or ornamentations. Don't take those away yet, because that's a clear sign that maybe you're going to be making a move and you might not want to tell anyone yet. So, but you can do so much to prepare without letting on or letting anyone else know. Once you're ready to resign, it's really key to do it in person with your boss or your manager and have a written letter of resignation in your hand at the same time. Now, there are some instances where your boss or your manager might not be in the same province or state or even country, and you might have to do it on the telephone or via Skype or Zoom or something. But if that's the case, then it would be good to book an appointment, book a meeting, to be able to do that with your boss or your manager. You don't have to tell them what the meeting's about, but you need 15 minutes or half an hour of their time and book it. You have something you want to talk about and then do it that way. But if you are able to do it in person, that's the best idea, and make sure you've got a copy of a resignation letter. Now, if you're doing it over Skype or Zoom or the phone, you might want to have an electronic version of that resignation letter ready to email to them after you've talked to them so that they get that right away. Make sure that your boss or your manager is told first before you tell HR and before you tell any colleagues or coworkers. Now, there are some jobs, I understand that this is true in sales, that once you resign, you may well get escorted right off the property that day. So you don't want to do the resignation part until the very, very end, until you've gotten all the stuff that you want organized, sorted, cleared off, finished, tied up, etc. You want to make sure that everything is ready to go, if indeed that is the case. Now, most jobs, however, will expect you to give notice, and sort of the global standard is 2 weeks, 2 weeks notice from the day that you give in your resignation. Now, that's standard. It does depend on what industry you're in. I'm in my other half of my life, I'm a clergy member, so I'm a minister in the United Church, and in the last ministry position I was in, I was a children, youth, and family minister, and I gave 6 months. And it was because everyone needed time to figure out what to do with the work I was doing and whether or not they were going to replace me. The whole organization was going through a transition at that time. And I also wanted to learn how to leave well. So I gave notice in January, and I figured I would finish out the year, leave in June when Sunday school and everything was over, and then there would be the summer, and it would just work out well. And I had made that time frame, that notice. I had made that decision after having talked to my the head minister and told her that I was thinking that this would be my last year and I would like to leave. And there was nothing wrong with that position. It was a peach of a position. It was a fantastic place to work. I learned so much. And I also learned that I didn't want to sleep on church basement floors anymore, as much as I loved the teenagers. I wanted to work with adults and do a different kind of ministry. So it wasn't because of anything that was wrong with the job. It was just I was feeling called to do something else, which is totally legitimate in any career. You can feel called to do something different, and that people don't need a reason or an excuse. They might ask you for one, but you don't actually need to provide one if you are resigning. In any case, in most places, the minimum is 2 weeks, and that's sort of a standard 2-week thing. So your letter of resignation needs to state that you're resigning as of this day. Have the date effective 2 weeks hence. So I'll give you an example in a second here of a resignation letter. You can keep the rest of the letter positive. You don't need to say why in the letter. You might want to say that in person to the boss or the manager, but the letter itself is just the official letter stating that you're resigning that will go into your records. So it doesn't need to be long at all. It doesn't need to have any explanation. It just needs to state the facts. So when you're speaking in person with your boss or your manager, you can tell them how much you've appreciated working with them, if that's true, and that you've learned a lot in the job. And, actually learning a lot, I left a very toxic work environment not that long ago, and I learned a lot. So saying that I learned a lot would have been an honest thing to say. I learned a lot about what not to do. I learned a lot about how not to behave in watching some of the behavior of some of the people. So you can learn things, but you can make it sound not so negative, right? You've learned a lot. So you can learn from good things and you can learn from negative things, but you don't need to clarify that. Thank your manager or your boss for their time and their guidance over the time that you've been there. You can be very positive in that conversation, but the letter itself is just I don't want to say legal, but it is the actual notice. So here's an example. So dear name of boss, this letter is to inform you that I will be resigning from my position as a, whatever your position is, as of today with my end date effective, and then 2 weeks from now, put the date. I have learned much in my 3 years working in this company, and I am grateful for the opportunity to have been part of this organization. Sincerely, and then your name. So it doesn't have to be long and drawn out. That's one paragraph, right? So dear name of boss, this letter is to inform you that I will be resigning from my position as a, whatever your position was, as of today with my end date effective, and then 2 weeks, put the date. I have learned much in my X number of years working in this company, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to have been part of this organization. Sincerely, and your name. Simple, simple, simple. And honestly, you can find examples of resignation letters all over the place. You don't need to ask in your resignation letter about pay or about salary, leftover vacation, etc. You will deal with HR for all of that. This is basically the official notification, and that's all it needs to be. No reason, just the facts, right? Short and sweet. Make sure that you ask in person, though, when you are speaking either with your manager or your boss, depending on the size of the company, or the HR people, if the letter will then get forwarded to HR. Human resources HR department. Then you can ask about unused vacation, about your pension. If you've got a pension plan, how do you deal with that? If there is any compensation coming your way, if you have unused sick time, when you'll get your last paycheck, your sick benefits, all of that kind of stuff. That may not be up to your boss or your manager. It may be up to the human resources or the HR department. Again, depending on what size of organization you're working for. What you can do that in that face-to-face meeting, if it's face-to-face or Skype or telephone, is to let your manager or your boss know that you are willing to help find your replacement. When I left the hospital in my last position, I worked in the hospital for 23 years as a health unit coordinator, hospital nursing unit clerk. There's many names for the position I did. But when I left my final position, I had worked on that unit for 3 years, and I was going back to school and went back to university. And when I left that position, I offered to help find my replacement, and I was invited to sit on the interview panel for my successor, and I actually helped to choose the person who is, as far as I know, still working in that position. So we picked a good one, and she's amazing. And as far as I know, she is still working in that position. So it was lovely to be able to help and to add my thoughts about the role and the position, and be invited to be part of that interview panel. Offer to train the new person if you can. Make it as easy a transition for everyone as possible, and that will reflect well on you. So you can help to train the person, or you can help to organize stuff so that it's really easy for the new person walking in. Once everyone knows that you're going, once you've let everybody know that needs to know, you can spend the next couple of weeks organizing, making lists for the new person, making it easy for that person to step in. I know that I appreciate that when I start a new job, if there's information readily available that a brand new person might need to know. So you can do all that, and you can really help make that transition as painless as possible. Return stuff to the company. I think I said that already. Return any equipment, any keys, laptops, cell phones, files, anything that you might have that is not yours to keep. Make sure you take all your personal things. Again, get all your personal stuff off the computer system if you can, and that you take all your decor and your stuff in the lunchroom. Anything that is yours, wander around and see what you've got that you can pack up and take away, plants, whatever. And that's important to make sure you have that. But don't do that again until everyone knows. Ask for a reference letter. You never know when you might need it. And so it's always a good idea to ask for a reference letter from somebody in the organization, your boss, your manager, or a coworker, or maybe both, and have that in your file for future use. And you might need it for your job that you've just been offered. Find out in your conversation with your boss or your manager who will let the others know, who will tell your colleagues and coworkers. There might be a reason they don't want you to do it. They might want to do it themselves, or they might want you to wait a little bit. So ask that question. Is it okay if I tell? Is this a good time? There might be something going on in the organization that it's not a good time. So just check out with the manager or the boss who would do that, and if it was you or if it's going to be the other person. And then make sure you've got the story right. What exactly is going to be said? That you have a new and exciting opportunity at another company, or that you are going back to school, or that you are taking a break for a while, stay home with your kids, or you're going to go and play with your grandchildren. Decide what story it is that you want to tell, and be consistent, be on the same page to prevent rumors and possible hurt feelings, etc., etc. So make sure you sorted out the story that you are going to tell. Now, if HR, the Human Resources Department, wants an exit interview, it's a good idea to make time to do that and to go and give that exit interview. These are often really good ways that companies can make effective changes. So be as honest as you can in your exit interview without being nasty or negative about any of the people if you can. But be honest about, if things aren't working as efficiently as they could, or you could see ways that things could be done differently, let them know, because the purpose of the exit interview in many ways is to find out where deficiencies are and where things could be improved. And there's lots of good information that often comes out of those meetings. And again, remember, you don't want to burn bridges because you just never, ever know. Say goodbye to your coworkers. They might throw you a party. Who knows? They might get you a cake. It depends on how long you've been there, what your relationship is with them. And you might want to leave your personal email and phone numbers with people if you haven't already, and get theirs so that you can stay in touch. Networking is always a great thing. You never know in the future who you might be able to help and who might be able to help you. So you might want to do that as well. Now, doing all of this might sound like a lot of work, but leaving professionally and gracefully is something that will not be forgotten, and it will serve you well in the future, even if you never come back to work there. Your reputation and relationship will remain intact, and who knows how that can unfold in the future, and how that might be a good thing in the future. I left my hospital position, as I said, in hospice palliative care. I believe it was in the year 2007. And I think I was still teaching at the time at a college. And I think I stayed on the on-call list for 2 years after that, before resigning completely. But that was 10 years ago. And I still get invited to retirement parties for nurses and staff on that unit. And if I go to that hospital to visit somebody in my capacity as a pastor or minister, there's always a friendly face to see and a big hug and a hi and how are you doing? It just feels good to leave in the best, most professional way that you can, again, to preserve that relationship. Of course, people are, might be sad that you're going at the beginning, or it might upset the apple cart a little bit, and people are wondering, when you lose somebody who's been a good employee, who's done a good job, it's hard for everyone else. But if you leave well, then they're going to remember that you did a good job and that you were efficient and that you were professional, and they will have moved on. Believe me, there's always somebody else that will step in and do a good job or a great job as well. So it's good. I think that's everything I had to say about that. If you have any questions about any of this, please drop me a line or leave me a voicemail. I've got a SpeakPipe app on the website over at communicationdiva.com. There's a little yellow thing that pops up and you can actually leave a voicemail, and I can answer your questions if you leave me a voicemail as well. And so once again, don't forget to check out the interview course for yourself or as a gift for someone else at courses.communicationdiva.com. Again, just until October 15th at the end of the day. And after that, it won't come back around until sometime in 2018. Until next time, thank you so much for listening. Take care of yourself. Be kind to those you meet. Our world needs a little bit more kindness right now, and you can do so much to make a difference. This is Jen Swanson. Bye for now.